Gotcha. Well, speaking of Persona, let's compare SMT versus Persona. And I think in that same one-up interview, is it the same one? GMR again. We don't know who that is. We can call him
The
George.
interviewer. George.
The two Persona games for the Sony PlayStation were the closest Americans have gotten to the Shin Megami Tensei universe. How do those games relate to what we'll see in Shin Megami Tensei 3? What's the same and what's different? And Kaneko says, Persona was geared towards a younger audience. It had a story that primarily dealt with the main character's psychology rather than a broader theme. One idea that is presented throughout the Megami Tensei series is that people often lack excitement in their daily lives. Nocturne is about the extraordinary events that people wish for, but can't actually experience in normal life. As a high school student in the game, your life is typical and the world around you is peaceful. But one day a paradigm shift destroys the world, and from then on, you must carefully decide your fate. One option is to become a hero. I guess that's kind of what we were talking about with the if thing, but yeah.
There's a lot to this because if we're gonna frame this as like Shin Megami Tensei versus Persona, what's the same and what's different, or like which one is better? There's a lot to look at here. First off, I have to acknowledge this, that Kazuma Kaneko is the artist, the SMT series.
Yeah.
Yet he is also the spokesperson in every interview that we found on Nocturne.
Yeah.
Where, like, the producer, one of the producers, is in this same interview, and Kaneko is taking the lead.
Yeah.
It's happening. But you know what? He has such a great grasp on, like, the series. You can tell he's been there since SMT 1. And, you know, I think first we have to address difference in concept. He says Persona is an exploration in the main character's psychology, whereas the Mega 10 games is about more so, I would say, a sociological thing. This is kind of just extrapolating from what he's saying, but I bolded that Nocturne is about the extraordinary events that people wish for but can't actually experience in normal life. So to me, it's like, you know, one is looking in the mind of a person and the other is looking at societal issues. To what extent do you agree, disagree, or see that in the games?
I think it's so blatant. I think that is the truest statement you could make comparing these two games. In Persona, you're worried about your school. You're worried about your friends. You're worried about the people closest to you. You're worried about your stats and how you're going to, you know, progress through the story. In SMT, you have no friends. You have no friends.
So-called friends.
Yeah.
One.
And the time that they're like people that you know is like 3 minutes before the world like ends, and then they're like these horrible monsters that you have to figure out which one you agree with. There is no school. Like there's none of that small stuff is there. It's not introverted, it's extroverted. It's you experiencing the world, whereas Persona is usually confined to one very narrow part. Or at least you could argue that it's actually about the same size if you look at it from like traveling around Tokyo, but it still feels much more confined than SMT ever did. So, man, they could not be more different.
In one, your decisions seem almost trivial. In the other, they make you stop and reflect and pause on what it is you're about to do.
Mm-hmm.
In playing Nocturne, I must have stopped when somebody asked me a question to like, because it doesn't happen a lot. You're given a couple times where you can align with a person or think about how you want to respond. But when that happened, I seriously considered, do I want to go with this person? Did you have those kind of reflective experiences in playing through Megami Tensei, and did you not have that kind of experience in playing through Persona?
Yeah, well, yeah. In SMT 3, that's specifically my point of reference for SMT because I have not played the others extensively. Yeah, when you're given the option to make a decision, you feel it, and you definitely you know that what you are about to do is going to impact the world. In Persona, I think there's too many not too many, I shouldn't say that, but there's too many choices for it to matter as much as it would in SMT. The game is all about those choices and about what you choose to do with your time, but they're all trivial in the one shots, but they add up in the end. Whereas SMT3 is a couple huge decisions that make you pause and have to wait and figure out.
Absolutely. I definitely see that because, the decisions that you make in Persona will affect how you play the game. But essentially, it is like I'm friends with everybody, and you'll just be my bigger friend.
Mm-hmm.
In Nocturne, it is the gravity of everything is on you. And SMT4, I played that one as well. That one's very similar in kind of distinguishing between the choices. In terms of the societal view, I definitely see Nocturne as bearing more of commentary on morality. It's the right thing to do. And it's not always clear. Sometimes there's a gray area about what is right and wrong. And in Persona, feel like I can only speak to 4 and 5, but I think no matter where you're going, you are pretty much doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's
so what. Yeah, go ahead.
That's true. Is there the choices in SMT matter to the world, and the choices in Persona matter to you? Would be maybe the best way to say it in the simplest terms. Is that
I don't. Yeah. I don't think that. I don't get a sense that Persona, and feel free to argue with me on this, but I don't feel that the decisions in Persona are a reflection on the main character's psychology, primarily those around you and those who are conflicted, especially like if you look at Persona 5, all the people whose subconsciouses you dive into and you figure out what's wrong with them and you try and make them face to face with their persona. And that's fine, but in Nocturne, you still embody the world's conflict.
Yeah, I don't hold Persona as deeply as, I mean, this guy I think has to because it's his game, but he's saying it primarily dealt with the main character's psychology rather than a broader theme. I think they still have themes, but I don't know how deep you really get into your own character's psychology so much. You get into other people's, you get into like adult psychology and understanding them, but yeah, I don't know how much necessarily you get into your own psychology that much personally. But I mean, you do with things like, personas are, the things your ego, right? Ego and super ego.
And ego, yeah.
But yeah, I just don't know how much I think those are that deep. But maybe somebody likes anime more than me and can disagree on that.
So with these things in mind, I think I know where you lie, but where do you fall in the Megami Tensei versus Persona debate based on your current experience, exposure?
Oh my god. I have to align myself with Persona more, and it has nothing to do with the story. I guess I'm a rare person, I've noticed online, and I don't like anime, but I really like Persona and Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. So apparently that's something wrong with me, but I just don't get into that stuff. I don't play Persona for the story or the characters per se. I play it because I really, really like the combat and the way that you get demons. And I think it's more the gameplay perspective that pulls me in, not the story. So, what about you?
It's a very interesting perspective. My experience with the series, I've played and finished Persona 4 and Persona 5. I've played and finished Shin Megami Tensei 3, 4, and 4 Apocalypse. And while I have thoroughly enjoyed my experience in both series, I would have to say that the impact of the storytelling and your association with demons is stronger in the Megami Tensei series. Does that mean I dislike Persona? No, but it doesn't do what Megami Tensei does in the same regard. It does something different. Fine. It puts you in more of an anime arc,
Yeah.
And I'm sure people will love that. I like this kind of badass human appeal. There's something very human about this. It's almost like reading a book, seeing what is the author's perspective on society as a whole through these kind of like broad themes. I think that Persona maybe has a deeper degree of personalization with the main character and characters, and it's, well, that's good if you like exposition. If you like it to be told to you, you know, what was this person's conflict and who are they? And it's very flashy. In this one, you know, I think the especially in Nocturne, but even in 4, that the characters have very defined flaws, their philosophies, also epiphanies, and the gray area between their determination of right and wrong keeps it as kind of something that's going through the back of your mind as you're playing through it. And if we're going to talk gameplay, I do prefer the Mega 10 gameplay, but that's a separate combo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with me is the one thing that holds SMT back for me is that I get attached to party members. And in SMT, you are a solo act.
Well, at least in Nocturne on. And actually, that's not exactly true for SMT4 about halfway through. Okay. But I also could be wrong, but I think I was reading that in SMT 1 and 2, you could pick. You have a set party members.
You could. I read that you could pick one of okay. like 3 and have him come with you. But that's the thing is I like getting those other party members and sticking with them throughout the adventure. And I think Persona gets both parts right with the getting the demons and then keeping regular party members.
Would challenge you on that if you know what you're doing as far as fusions and sacrifices, and especially on New Game Plus, because I was able to pick and choose which are my favorite demons that I wanted to sacrifice to level them up to get them really high and customize them, and I made them viable for my entire second playthrough.
Yeah, but that's kind of a balancing issue at that point, because you don't really grow with them at that point. They're like the monsters that were there the whole time.
So I don't know if I would frame it as an issue. It's a feature that can be taken advantage of to produce the same experience. Is it convoluted, and is it convoluted? Yes. Will everyone do it? No, but it is something that can be done in order to have that same degree of connection with, you know, a demon party member. And then also your main character, I mean, like, I get it. Like, you need that sense of like your allies who you talk to, and yeah, your demons are not going to talk to you except when you fuse them and they say, "Haha, me Snake Cerberus, me eat you whole."
Yeah.
But I still found that I had my attachments to party members in Nocturne.
Yeah, I think like psychologically, you know, going through these adventures, you build a certain thing with your characters, like you root for them. Like Dragon Quest 1 or 2, really, I should say 2, 3, even 4, maybe, mostly 2 and 3. I mean, those guys are not really there.
3 though, but 3 is like you made them,
right?
They're there with you,
but they're not like people you talk to. There's like one guy you can talk to, and that's like a side quest, but it's like. They're blank canvases, but you do grow attached to them, and you do have something that you can build from there.
Yeah,
and just the fact that it's gameplay, and so there is something to that in the SMT games. It's just that at a certain point, they've worn out their welcome, and that's the style of the game. That's not a shot. That's just the nature of the game. Is you've used them for what they're good for. Time to upgrade, and then it's like bye forever. Unless I need you again you can sacrifice you for something else. And it's, you know, it's not a shot at the game. That's fine, and that's perfectly within the philosophy of what the game is representing. That's part of the whole thing. And it's not bad. It's just not necessarily what I prefer.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I'm of two minds on that one. It's almost like you could find me on a different day and I'd be like, oh yeah, I fuck those characters. I like the demons. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but that's a tough.
I'll return
question.
to this topic.
Persona versus SMT. Oof.
Yeah, round 2.
Yeah, we'll do that on your channel on some podcast thing.